I'm just going to talk about some mail that I've gotten recently, and I'm going to keep this person anonymous. They are Christian, fairly open minded, that's seen reptilians and seen them before they even knew what this kind of thing was, and had astral projection experiences as a child before they knew what that was. And so I'm going to read a little bit about this guy's philosophy and his letter to me. The details of my reptilian sighting are not that exciting. I didn't go on their spaceship, visit their underground city, or do battle with one. What you might find of interest is how I was able to see them, explaining my sightings. I believe they are real because I've seen them and have gotten reactions out of them. They do seem to be interdimensional and can't be sensed within the normal human sensory range. I have also seen people who are carrying the gene but are not full reptilian. They only have had an outline of one in their aura. Here is a letter I've written because I can't keep writing the story a million times. So far, my experience has been unique compared to others I've spoken to. What I witnessed was a full change where I could see their whole head in its reptilian form. In most instances, people have seen only glimpses of them, such as an eye change or a skin distortion when these beings become agitated. Others have seen them during sleep paralysis or astral projection. There's a lot of monkey business to confuse the public. Just let me say that what is understood or referred to at this time as supernatural elements attached to this, even though technically there are no such thing as supernatural, there is only what is understood and what is not understood. It is a fairly long story. Let me just say that this was not an ability I achieved on my own. It came from an outside force, and it only lasted for about 30 days. That being said, I'll start at the beginning. As a child, I had these astral projection and had no religious training until later in my life. I have no more understanding of it now than I did back then. But I do understand that the universe is connected magnetically. Then he got into his spiritual understandings. And then in October of 2006, it happened. I didn't know it at the time, but a spirit came to me and laid its hand upon me. At no time was I possessed. My personality and mind were entirely my own throughout the experience. That's why I use the expression laid its hand. It started slowly at first. I started to get these thoughts just entering my mind out of nowhere that I felt compelled to write down. It started by giving me the definition of words over a couple of days. Example, Genesis, the genes of Isis. Israel, Isis, Amen, Ra, and El. These are not meanings you'll be taught in school because you learn the meaning of the words, and this is one of the weapons they used against us as part of how the propaganda works as a powerful form of hypnosis that has many layers. And I'll just take a break from his letter here. I agree with him. The letters in Hebrew and Gaelic, and he's saying also Aramaic, have vibrations. Each letter is a concept, and also how it goes into music, how they have different musical notes, have different vibration, and how that's mathematics. And I agree. Also, the numerology of the letters, the words, or the first letter that a word starts with. And so this helpful spirit gave him some information. He went through some physical changes, and he goes into the sightings he had at home and at work. And also, this guy talks about how this helpful spiritual spirit came to him and helped him because he prayed. But I'd make the argument of again about archetypes and demigods. Are these things outside ourselves or from within ourselves? Because this guy is a Christian, he kind of looks down on magic, but I think he appreciates the fact that some magic workers are good and that, but that it is powerful and can be easily corrupt a person too. And so let me continue on about his story here. The first was in my home, a stray cat that we had took in a couple years ago earlier that seemed to appear out of nowhere in a residential area and starving, which is unusual. The other cats freaked out, and eventually she warmed up to us, but not the cats. One evening, the wife and I were on the bed, and she was there with us all of a sudden, and I saw this weird face morph out of the cat's head. It seemed kind of like looking through a hologram to a real picture underneath. This happened twice in the space of about 5 minutes. The first time I was like, what the fuck was this? So I played it off and didn't say anything. A few minutes later, it happened again, and I got a really good look at it. It was a dragon-like with a triangular-shaped head. It had a sneering grimace to it. The mouth was tight at the front and gradually became larger as it went back, exposing its teeth. I could sense whatever this was had an intelligence. It wasn't a dumb animal. I felt in a way like it was observing me. I showed it I was not frightened of it and told it shall not disrupt my home. It reacted to this and turned away from me and would not look at me. I also had 6 human sightings, of which most of these occurred at work. I know all this to be real because I didn't jump to any hasty conclusions, and I knew in my heart what I saw in my mind, and I examined everything carefully for my own sanity's escape because this information can change your life. While most of the sightings happened at work, they were not in all one place because I'm a delivery person. During each one of these sightings, they all reacted with fear or distress except for one. They know when you can see them. The one that was not afraid was the more ferocious looking ones. He was kind of like, yeah, you can see me, so what? You can't say or do anything to me, and he was right. So this person that wrote me this letter didn't say what he tried to do other than show these things that he was not afraid of them, and that was pretty much it. And from my observation, we did not exchange words. Yes, this has also been my experience that they talk to you telepathically. I observed him in a good few minutes. He had a rounded head with smooth dark skin and black eyes, no external ears, and a round protruding snout with many triangular-shaped pointy teeth. I saw 2 of this type. While these sightings occurred, I could feel the spirit increase its presence on me to raise my vibration level high enough to break through their mask or disguise. I could feel the pressure at the back of my skull, and I would sweat profusely when this happened. Another one occurred in a small business owner's office. I had to finish my delivery, and she was about to write a check for her weekly payment. Suddenly the spirit amped me up, and I could see her change. She became very distressed and flustered and could not write a check. I was able to observe her in the state for a good 5 minutes. This was the iguana-looking type and more human-esque. I only saw the profile for the most type, but had fine tight scales with a greenish-yellow hue, a small mouth with no lips, and more frog-like, small nostrils, and a slit for a mouth and black eyes. I also had a person I'd known for about 2 years hide themselves from me. Twice I saw the reptilian inner self. One sighting was someone I knew who I was visiting in the hospital. They were in bed with monitors attached. When I saw the reptilian presence, their pulse went up to 160 beats per minute. At that time, the doctor walked in and looked at the monitor and said, "That's not right." One of the reptilians I had seen was a new employee at my place of work. But when the spirit was with me, he avoided being in my presence as much as possible. After the spirit was gone, he started coming again. Not too long after he arrived, the company changed their logo to include the belt of Orion. I made it very clear to him that I knew what he was, and he acknowledged I was correct. Also, whenever we were alone, I would try to get information from him. This pressure resulted in someone trying to run me down in a small alley. I also had a pretty powerful psychic tell me there was a spiritual presence around me not long after this happened. So, what this guy said about the seeing it come from an animal, from a cat, that's interesting. I've heard that before. I haven't seen that, but if you think about the underworld and your subconscious, where your animal type spirits come from, and if you think about the void or part of the underworld, dark part of the moon, where these Transpotonians come from, it makes sense that it could attach itself to say an animal. Also, seeing it in their auras is interesting because sensitive people can see information in people's auras. And then he says he hasn't seen them since, but then he had a bunch of spiritual visions more about words. What is this? Oh, he goes into how the ley lines on the earth, how they're manipulating them through pyramids and through different monuments on the ley lines. And I agree with this. If I like geomantic information systems, goes into that on my channel too. I have their channel on my profile favorites. And he says that one of the words that he was shown was pyra, means fire, like pyro, and mid means middle. So the middle of the fire explains its rare placement at an energy center purpose. And he says it stops chi from flowing properly, and that this is creating some sort of astral net for spirits for their sort of their fucked up sort of rapture end date that they're promoting. And then he says that his theory is that some of the dinosaurs didn't die out, but that they evolved, and so that some people believe they come from somewhere else, but they may be native to Earth. Well, that's actually what reptilians say. They say that Earth is actually, that's why they say that Earth is theirs. But there you go. So, interesting.